Welcome back to This Week in Agribusiness. Max, you were out on the road this past week. Where'd you go?
Well, we were in poultry country and a big grain producing area too. We were in Maryland and Delaware, not far from the Atlantic Ocean, just about 30 miles from the coast. And as I was there, I was reminded of the fact that we've been watching these poultry industry problems closely. The disease concerns because once again, this season, the high-path avian influenza has reared its ugly head once more.
That's right, Max. HPAI remains a concern heading into this winter, but researchers now have some new data. For the first time in North America, an infected bird with HPAI was tracked by researchers. Joining us now is the co-author of the study of this wild bird, Jeffrey Sullivan with the U.S. Geological Survey. And Jeffrey, what makes it so hard to track a wild bird with HPAI?
Well, there's a lot of different factors that go into making this just as complicated as it is, and why we've had issues doing this up to present. The first of those is just the limited opportunities within the United States. We haven't had very many major HPAI outbreaks in the past, which means that there have been fewer opportunities to get those birds. And that's a great thing for us here, but it is definitely a challenge. One of the other factors is that while this is a major issue, on the scale of all of the nation's wild birds, the prevalence rates are such that, and not every transmitter you're going to put out is going to have a bird that might become infected. And finally, the high cost of transmitters in and of themselves, right? Most of these studies that are going on are doing 20 or 30 birds. And at any given site, to get an infected bird is a fairly rare instance. And this is the first time that all of that has come together at one time when a disease sample was taken for us to know that that was in fact infected.
So let's talk through how this infected bird behaved. Jeffrey, if you would tell us, what kind of bird is it? And then how did you notice its actions changing once you were aware that it was infected?
Sure. So we'll start off. This was a lesser scaup captured in the Chesapeake Bay of Maryland as part of an ongoing collaborative study with Maryland Department of Natural Resources and the University of Delaware, where they were doing their own study looking at lesser scaup wintering ecology there in the Chesapeake Bay. And we were able to collaborate with them and take disease samples from the birds that they were already capturing and tagging for their own work, right? Really that collaborative science effort that is so important to these larger projects. And the bird was behaving perfectly normally when it was brought in for tagging, right? There was nothing unusual about this bird. It was acting just like all of the other conspecifics in the study. However, after release, we get the results back a few weeks later and then start to look at the data and go, oh, okay, this is different. This bird was expressing much reduced movements in the wild. So even though it wasn't expressing anything behaviorally in the lab, it was showing, half of the level of hourly movements that we were seeing from other wild birds tagged even on the exact same day.
So, Jeffrey, if this wild bird is behaving differently, is this going to change the questions researchers ask in securing poultry facilities?
That's still to be determined a little bit. The real implication of this study is how we integrate water bird movement into our transmission models, right? So if we can start to predict how the virus might spread across space and time by integrating the movements of the wild birds.
All right. All of these things are works in progress. U.S. Geological Survey continuing to do work to track HPAI throughout the country. Jeffrey Sullivan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.